Hey YouTube, a little bit of a different video than I normally upload today. First off, I'm actually talking in this video. I don't think I've ever uploaded a video where you hear my voice. Somehow over the years of me just uploading random videos of me playing instruments, I've got like 500,000 views or something. I don't know why my videos aren't anything spectacular. But anyway, today I kind of want to outline a technique that I've been using recently that allows me to silently record my tube amplifier directly into my computer, cranked up all the way without ruining it. This isn't something that I came up with on my own. I've kind of gathered bits and pieces of information from different forums and videos and stuff around the internet, but through my research I haven't really seen any video or article online that kind of outlines everything from start to finish, what you need, how to set it up, how much it's going to cost you. It's not expensive at all. It's roughly $300 depending on what you already have. So I kind of just want to go through that really quick. I'll try not to blab too much. This will be really good for people who live in apartments. If you're like me, I'm an amateur. I don't make money. I have a day job. This is just a hobby that I do. So I don't have a treated studio room that with isolated, rooms that I can just put my cabinet in there, crank it up and let it rip. I live in an apartment with my wife. This is actually the front bedroom. As you can see, it's not acoustically treated or anything like that. But obviously living in an apartment with my wife or, your spouse, you can't just crank up your amp. I mean, the people below me would probably call the cops on me. My wife would probably kill me, which is even worse than the cops. But anyway, so kind of the overview of what we're going to be doing is taking your tube amp directly into a direct input box with a dummy load, which I'll get to in a minute, running that into an audio interface, and then using impulse responses in a convolution plugin to mimic the sound of a speaker, guitar cabinet, and a specific microphone. That last part sounds complicated, and honestly, it's very easy to do, but the kind of science behind it is way over my head. Okay, so I'm assuming a few things kind of before we jump into this. I won't blab too much. I'm assuming that you already have a guitar, you already have a tube amp, and you already have some type of computer that's halfway decent that can handle recording audio. Obviously, if you don't have a guitar and a computer, you should probably work on that first before trying to figure out how to record your songs. So with that being said, oh, sorry, one more thing. If you have a solid state amp, this really doesn't apply to you, because if you bought that amp in probably the last 20 years, there's probably a line out jack on the rear panel of the amp, so you could just run a guitar cable from that into your audio interface and you're good to go. Also, if you have many hybrid tube amps, such as the Fender Super Champ XD, excuse me, the Blackstar HD5, that's an amp that I've had in the past. They have some type of emulated output as well on the back that you can just plug in the cable, run it straight to your interface, and you're good to go. But for this video, as an example, I'm using an Attenuator Rebel 20, which is an all tube amp that doesn't have any type of emulated output. So really, before I started doing this, the only way for me to record this was to mic it. And obviously in this room, not being able to crank it, not in a proper treated room, the tone that I got just wasn't very good. So anyway, with that being said, let's go ahead and just go over what you're going to need to buy outside of just the regular guitar amp and computer. Okay, so the first thing that you're going to want to get is some type of direct input box with a dummy load. Now, what a dummy load is it takes the energy from your amp and converts it into heat. This is very, very, very important, because if you don't have a dummy load and you try to use a tube amp with just a direct input box without a dummy load, you can very literally destroy your amp. I'm not a physicist or an audio engineer or anything like that, so I'm probably not using the correct terminology here, but I'll try to explain it the best I can. Essentially, there's a lot of energy coming from your amp. When it's plugged into just a regular speaker, that takes that energy, dissipates it as sound waves or whatever, and you're good to go. If you don't have a speaker plugged in, you have to have some type of load that can convert that energy so it doesn't, I guess, back up and destroy your amp or whatever. That's where the dummy load comes in. What it does is it takes that energy in, and as far as I know, it converts it into heat. So that's why sometimes when you use an attenuator, it'll get hot to the touch if you use it for a long time, because it's taking all that energy in, converting it into heat. But at the same time, it's protecting your amp, and you're not going to destroy your amp. So like I said, there's other options out there. I would recommend this one because it's inexpensive. With shipping to my door, it cost me $127. There's other products out there. I think there's one called the Palmer PD3 or PDI3, something like that. I'm not sure, but it was like twice as much as this. There's other ones that are probably 3 times as much. For me, being an amateur at home that's not making money off of this, it's just a hobby, this does everything that I need. So what you'll do is, like I said, you'll plug in the amp head into the direct input, or excuse me, into the input from the amp. Then you'll run just a regular guitar cable from the line out jack into your audio interface. And then from there, you'll just add a track in your digital audio workstation, aka DAW, on your computer, and then you'll set up the convolution plug. All right, the second thing that you will need is costs about the same as the attenuator, is some type of audio interface. Just as a sample, this is an older one that I have. It's very, very bare bones and basics. I don't even use this anymore. But it just as an example, essentially this is how you would plug either a microphone or a guitar or some type of instrument cable into your computer so you can record it directly into your DAW. This right here is made by M Audio. This is the M Audio Fast Track. I think it's like $100 or something like that. It's really cheap, really inexpensive. But essentially what you would do is you would run, let me grab this other one, you would run an instrument cable from the line out into the 1/4 inch jack on your audio interface. And each audio interface is set up a little bit differently, but as long as you have one, there's going to be a 1/4 inch jack input. You would just run it into there, and you're good to go. Alright, so if you'd like to use your external speaker as a monitor while you are recording, that's really easy. Like I said, you can just take a second speaker cable, run it from the output to speaker jack on the back here, and then just run it like you normally would into the back of your guitar cabinet, and you're good to go. It's because of how low the attenuation is on here. Essentially that just means it's lowering the overall output of the amp. I was watching football the other night and I could hear the commentators over the sound coming from the amp. That's how low it was. So it puts it at conversation level. However, if you're self-conscious, or if you have a kid sleeping, or your wife just doesn't want to hear you at all, as long as this knob is set to maximum attenuation, all the way to the left, as you can see the little line there, it's pointing at 0 essentially. You can then unplug your speaker cable from here, and this will act as a dummy load all on its own. It'll still send the full signal to the computer. It'll still sound just fine. It won't ruin your amp. I've tested it out several times and it hasn't destroyed my amp. So normally I like to have the monitor as I'm playing, so I don't have to wear headphones. So I'll usually keep my speaker in, and it's good to have as a fail-safe. But I've run into no problems with running it without the speaker plugged in. I know some people are a little kind of hesitant to do that, but as far as I'm concerned, I have no problems doing that. I've had no issues from it, and it's worked just. One other thing that you want to consider when buying an attenuator, or in this case, if you're going to buy the Weber, that's great. Like I said, this is what all of my experience is with. You want to get an attenuator that is rated for approximately twice the wattage of the amp that you're wanting to use with it. So for example, the Rebel 20 is a 20 watt amp. So I went ahead and bought the 50 watt version of the attenuator. So if you're using a 50 watt amp, you want to get a 100 watt attenuator. If you're using a 100 watt amp, get a 200 watt, so on and so forth. This way it has, I don't know what the official terminology is, basically, so it can handle the maximum output of your amp in there without damaging your amp, if that makes sense. Alright, we are on my computer now. Sorry about this red box in the middle. I'm using a free screen capture software, so it puts that there. It's really annoying, but we'll work around it. So the convolution plugin that I like to use is this Ignite Amps NAD IR. It's completely free to download. It supports both 32 and 64 bits, so you can just download the appropriate one. Lightweight, it comes, when you download it, it'll be zipped, so you need to just extract the files to your plugin folder, and that's all. You add it onto a track just like any other synth or mixing plugin, that type of thing. So if you go to Google, like I said, just search this. That's a good one. There's other free ones out there I'm sure you can find if you just search, free convolution plugin or something like that. But this is a good one. It's a pretty standard one that a lot of people use if they're using free plugins. I also have my impulses folder here. This is where I save all my impulses too. So if you go in there, what a impulse response is essentially it is a sonic fingerprint of a space. So it records, it's a wave file that holds information on how the speaker and cabinet and microphone all interact. So when you send an input signal through the plugin that you would load it into, the resulting output it shows what the input file would sound like if it was running through the source of the impulse response, if that makes sense. It probably doesn't. I didn't explain it very well. It's kind of a complicated thing that goes on in the background, but for us, as long as it works, that's all that matters. If it works and it sounds good. So the one that I use, the company that I like to buy them from, are Red Wire's impulse responses. That's REDWIREZ. You have to buy them. However, they do have a free one of them out there for free. If you register for their site, you can download it completely for free. You don't have to give them your credit card number or anything like that. It's this 1960 Marshall cabinet with Celestion greenbacks. I think it's a 4x12 with the greenbacks. But you click in and you can see all of the different microphones that they use to mic up this cabinet. And then you can go in, you can see these are the actual IRs right here. So you have the name of the cabinet, the microphone used, and then the position of the mic. And then it's just a whole bunch of them. Different positions. Some of them are on axis, some are off axis. You see these right here. This is the SM57 off axis miking, on axis, everything. You can combine them, blend them to really get a whole array of tones with your amp. So after you have downloaded those, got them unzipped in the place where you want them to be, all you need to do is go into your DAW. I'll remove this and start from scratch. Go into your DAW, just put a new track in there. I use Reaper, so yours might be a little bit different than this, but it's the same logic. You insert a new track. You want to make sure that the input matches the input where you plugged in the instrument cable that goes from the line out on the mini mast to your audio interface. So in this case, I plugged it in to input 1, so I don't need to change that. Go over here. This is how, in Reaper, this is how you put effects on a track. I just click that. I actually already have it loaded up, but if I needed to, I could just click there, click on there, hit OK, and this is what the plugin looks like. Let's kind of reposition this because that stupid box. You have two different cabinets that you can use, which means you can use two different IRs at the same time, and then you can use this balance right here to blend them. So if it's in the center, you're getting 50-50 between the two, and you can blend to taste, which has a very powerful effect on the tone that comes out. So I would encourage you to mess with that. I like to set the quality to extreme. The higher the quality, the more of a CPU hit you're going to get. So it just depends on your computer's performance. If you want to use both of them, you need to turn this one on. So when it's red, that means it's on. And then it's just as simple as browsing to whichever file you want and then plopping them in there. So we'll just pick two at random. Let's do that, and let's get a condenser, and we'll scroll down and whatever. And that's all you do. So from there, you can just exit it if you want. You don't have to look at it. Arm your track for recording. You can see the signal is coming in from my guitar. And I'm actually recording this silently. I've unplugged my external cabinet, and I'm using the mini mast just as a load box. So from there, I would just hit record, and I can play something. I don't know how that sounds. That might have been really bad. It's just a quick little take for example purposes. And then when you go and play it back, you get this. Give it a second. And now you can hear that it sounds like the amp is going through the cabinet. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean, oh my God, you think that's the greatest tone ever. That's not what the point is. The point is it's much easier for me to record this silently without disturbing anybody, and it sounds better than any result that I would get if I tried to crank the thing in this apartment and mic it. Well, not necessarily cranking it, keeping it low and then trying to mic it and record a quiet amp. It just doesn't sound the same. So that's how you do it. It's not hard. It's relatively inexpensive. It's about the cost of, you know, 2 mid-range effect pedals. So I hope that this is giving you an idea of a way to maybe approach recording at your home or your apartment. If you have any questions, you can always send me a message or put a comment in the section below. I hope you learned something. Thanks.